Hi, everybody. My name is Harleigh Slater. I am a junior here at Bloomsburg, and my major is Arabic, or Language and Cultures, the track in Arabic, and I'm minoring in linguistics. Today, I'm here to talk to you about terrorism. So, for a brief overview, I will be going over the definitions of terrorism, the types of terrorism, causes, effects, deaths, 2013 to 2017, the present, the future, and at the end, I'll have a works cited page. Terrorism is defined in the Oxford Dictionary as the unlawful use of violence and intimidation, especially against civilians, in the pursuit of political aims. Many see this definition as unspecific and subjective. The issue of subjectivity in this case means there is no internationally recognized legal definition of terrorism. Despite considerable discussion, the formation of a comprehensive convention against international terrorism by the United Nations has always been impeded by the lack of consensus on a definition. However, for a brief definition, many scholars agree that terrorism involves violence or threat of violence and is from a non-governmental group or individuals. The Global Terrorism Database defines terrorism as an act of violence by non-state actors perpetrated against civilian populations intended to cause fear in order to achieve a political objective. So now on to the types of terrorism. There are two types, international and domestic. International terrorism is violent criminal acts committed by individuals and or groups who are inspired by or associated with designated foreign terrorist organizations or nations. Domestic terrorism is violent criminal acts committed by individuals and or groups to further ideological goals stemming from domestic influences such as political, religious, social, racial, or environmental nature. So terrorism causes can be historical, cultural, political, social, psychological, economic, or religious, or any combination of these. Some terrorists are also motivated by specific issues, such as opposition to legalized abortion, nuclear energy, environmental concerns, or animal rights. Terrorists attempt not only to sow panic, but also undermine confidence in the government and political leadership of their target country. Terrorism is therefore designed to have psychological effects that reach far beyond its impact on the immediate victims or object of an attack. Terrorists mean to frighten and thereby intimidate a wider audience, such as rival ethnic groups or religious groups, an entire country and its political leadership, or international community as a whole. So here's a chart reporting the deaths from terrorism until 2019. And in 2019, an estimated 20,329 people died from terrorism globally. Over the previous decade, the average number of annual deaths was 24,000. And over this decade, the global death toll ranged from its lowest of 7,800 in 2010 to the highest of 44,500 in 2014. And this chart is from the Global Terrorism Database. So here is a table of terrorist attacks from 2013 to 2017. From left to right, it's the group, the region, the attacks, or the number of attacks, the number of people killed, number of people injured, and hostages. So starting with the Taliban, their region is Afghanistan and Pakistan, and there's an estimated 5,000 attacks, 20,000 people killed, 20,000 people injured, and roughly 5,000 hostages. Islamic State, they're worldwide. They have 5,600 attacks, 32,000 people killed, 33,000 injured, and 21,000 hostages. Boko Haram is from West and Central Africa, and they had 1,600 attacks, 16,000 people killed, 7,000 people injured, and 2,800 hostages. Al-Shabaab from Eastern Africa has 1,600 attacks, 5,000 killed, 4,000 injured, 2,000 hostages, and it just goes on. And here is the deadliest groups present. This chart is the four deadliest terrorist groups in 2021. And these four deadliest terrorist groups responsible for the most deaths in 2021 were the Islamic State, Al-Shabaab, the Taliban, and Jamaat Nasrat al-Islam wal Muslimin, or JNIM. These four groups were responsible for 3,364 deaths from terrorism, representing 47% of total deaths in 2021. Another 2,775 of terrorism deaths were not attributed to any organization. Three of these four groups were also the deadliest groups last year, with JNIM replacing Boko Haram for this year. Here's the deadliest terrorist attacks in history, number one being 9/11. The events of 11 September 2001 have no precedent in the history of terrorism. On that day, 19 terrorists belonging to bin Laden's Al-Qaeda hijacked four passenger aircraft shortly after they departed from airports in Boston, Massachusetts, Newark, New Jersey, and Washington, D.C. The first plane crashed into the North Tower of the World Trade Center in New York City shortly before 9 a.m. About 15 minutes later, a second aircraft struck the South Tower. Shortly afterward, a third plane crashed into the Pentagon in Arlington, Virginia, and a fourth aircraft crashed into a field in rural Pennsylvania. After its passengers, hearing by cell phone of the hijackings, attempted to take control from the plane before they could strike another target. Before September 11, terrorists had killed no more than about 1,000 Americans in the United States and abroad. This was during the modern era of international terrorism, which began in 1968. Approximately 3 times that number perished on September 11th. Now looking to the future of terrorism. Terrorism is evolving constantly to overcome governmental countermeasures designed to defeat it, thus involving an ongoing search for new targets and identified vulnerabilities in its opponents. This quest also raises the possibility that terrorists may pursue unconventional means of attack, such as chemical, biological, radiological weapons, or nuclear weapons. Future terrorist tactics can also include cyber terrorism, which is sabotage using computers to destroy computer networks or systems, or even electronic warfare that targets critical infrastructure such as communications, power facilities, and societies in general. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation. Here are some works cited, and if you have any questions, please feel free to email me. Thank you.